Hello, hi, it's me, I'm back. Hey, hi. So today, I'm gonna talk about, once again, be quiet. Once again, I'm gonna talk about infantilization. This time spurred on by a comment, because I do want to, so here's the thing, this is kind of what I worry about. If I do like talking about autism or mental health, I worry that I'm not good at it and I don't want to mislead people, or I don't want to, this is just me talking and not mislead people, but I don't want to downplay something or whatever. And a lot of times what I do, if you've seen me before, is get on Reddit and just read Reddit posts and then talk about it. And I read what is just sort of interesting to me or what stands out to me. But anyways, so someone wrote a comment, and let me get to it. Let me get what they actually said. And one of the Reddit posts that I read, was going on and over this topic of infantilization and autistic people specifically. And let's see, here it is. No offense, but speaking from personal, this is what they wrote. No offense, but speaking from personal experience, I'd rather be infantilized than outright abused, talked over, and spoken to with a harsh and uncaring manner, which has been happening increasingly often lately. So, first of all, I want to say that I'm sorry that you are being outright abused, in your words, and talked over, spoken to with a harsh and caring manner, and it's been happening more and more to you, and that's awful. And although when I read no offense, I just went, oh no, what a different, because I saw it. If someone writes a comment, sometimes, unless I clear it out, I'll get a notification on my phone, YouTube Studio, someone's written a comment, and if I'll see just the first few words, and then I see no offense, and I'm like, oh no. And here's one reply. I see infantilization as abuse. It's uncaring to infantilize people. So, and I agree. Infantilization is abuse. But I also want to say that with this person dealing with, so infantilization is sort of like shadow abuse. It's like abuse that happens in the dark. I'm just making things up. That doesn't make sense. It's, I don't want to play the game of suffering Olympics, and I don't want to play the game. It's a weird way again. I'm sorry if I put any of this in a weird way. I don't want to play the game of what is worse abuse. Like we can always find either someone that has it worse and someone that has it better. I can put it like this. There are some people that say, in terms of like bullying, they would have rather been bullied outright and with violence than bullied. Oh, I just recognized my laptop was in the way. Okay, so some people might be bullied by violence, and some people might be bullied by psychological psychologically bullying. Girls will bully more often with psychological, and bullied by rejection and things like that. Kicking someone out of the group or spreading rumors. And guys will more often bully by rejection and by physical violence and by intimidation and that kind of thing. And there are some people that say that they would rather be abused through physical violence than abused through psychological things. Oh, that was hot. That was hot. That was way too hot. That wasn't hot enough that I burned my tongue, but I should have waited a bit. Okay, so here's the thing. I went to ChatGPT, as I often do, and for a second I was just going to ask it to write me a response, because I wanted to respond, but I didn't know what exactly to say. So here's its response. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's incredibly tough when you feel unheard or mistreated, and it's important to acknowledge that feeling understood and respected is crucial. I completely see where you're coming from in preferring one behavior over another, especially in tough situations. I'm glad I didn't respond with that, because that's not very good. This part though. However, I want to highlight that while infantilization might seem less harsh compared to other forms of mistreatment, it can also be a subtle form of disrespect. I think it goes further than that. It undermines a person's autonomy and can be quite disempowering. Again, I think it's way bigger than that. Both behaviors stem from a lack of understanding and respect, which is something we need to address. Let's continue this conversation to raise awareness and promote a more inclusive and respectful interaction for everyone. That's a very ChatGPT ending. I wanted it to talk further about, because I still was having trouble, even in my own mind, of trying to explain just the sort of insidious nature. It's more than that insidious nature that infantilization can lead to. So I said to ChatGPT, I said, how can infantilization lead to abuse? I said, particularly when it involves adults, it can lead to abuse both directly and indirectly. And directly is the point that I'm trying to make. Because when you talk about indirect abuse, that's hard to articulate and it's hard to really understand. And it's hard to believe that indirect abuse can be just as harmful. Or, again, I don't want to, even saying just as harmful puts it into the category of what is higher or lower abuse. I don't know. I've been around a lot of people that are abused in different ways and are traumatized in different ways. And recognizing that trauma and abuse hurts no matter if it's easy or if someone has it worse or someone has it better or whatever. If someone gets more abuse, someone gets less. It's like any amount of abuse is bad. It sucks. Again, it's like if you made a video saying this has been what's happening to me, someone could be like, well, no offense, but I was chained to the wall as a child. In fact, I just heard there's that old TV show. Let me try again. There was that old reality TV show, John and Kate +8. And it's amazing that you can, on TikTok, for whatever reason, I saw this person, Kate. There's a clip of the show. And there were women jumping in and going, well, you see what John is doing is he is just being, what were they calling it? Weaponized. Okay, I remember. John, the women were saying in the comments in this video that John was weaponizing his incompetence, because this is the talking point for women, that men are weaponizing incompetence. But then, like a few days later, I see another video where one of the children is talking about being put in a closet all day long and like zip tied, his hands and like zip tied, not being able to like move, just leaving him in the closet. And that was something Kate was doing. Now I don't know if she did that, but why did I talk about this? Why am I talking about this? That's not infantilization, but I don't know why I was talking about that. Let me go to what ChatGPT, so they have different types. There are different bullet points. Let's see. First bullet point, undermining autonomy. Second, creating dependency. Third, disempowerment. Fourth, isolation. Fifth, stigmatization and stereotyping. So now I'm gonna read through these, and if I think of anything to say, I'll say it. Undermining autonomy. The first one. Infantilizing someone means treating them like a child, which can take away their ability to make decisions for themselves. This might include making choices for them, disregarding their preferences, or dismissing their opinions. Over time, this can erode a person's self-worth and sense of agency, turning into a form of psychological abuse. This is indirect, and it seems like indirect would be worse, or would be better than direct abuse. But indirect abuse can sometimes have like incredibly long-term consequences, because basically undermining you in subtle ways, and eventually you succumb. You just go, okay, I guess, yeah, maybe I'm stupid, maybe I can't do this. And that's tricky, because some people that are autistic, and maybe some people really do need extra help. Well, the issue is when you don't need extra help, and how do you find that if you're a parent, how do you find that, like, you know, how much to do versus how much not to do? And that's even hard for people when it's not an autistic kid, if it's just a holistic kid. And so before you know it, you're 22 and you feel like you're completely incompetent. Let's go to the next one. Creating dependency. When adults are treated like children. So again, this is more about adults. Adults treated other adults like children. When adults are treated like children, it can make them rely more on others for decisions and everyday tasks. This dependency can be taken advantage of, leading to control over various aspects of their life, like finances or social relationships. And that triggered something that I wanted to say. But just abusers will be attracted to people that they can abuse. And sometimes, and this is tricky too, I used to listen to Psychology in Seattle, a podcast by a guy named Dr. Kirk Honda, and he would sometimes talk about abuse, way better qualified to talk about it than me. But let me try and explain what I've understood from him, which is that very often, sometimes, I shouldn't say very often, sometimes abusers and people who are going to abuse are doing it in a very twisted, broken way of getting their relationship needs met. Doesn't mean it's okay. I'd say twisted. Abusers, not good people. I've been abused in a relationship by a person who thought of me as a child, which was very annoying because she was such a fucking kid. It was very annoying. But now, what got me put into that situation? What got me put is this a created dependency, a lack of autonomy in my own self. I didn't recognize certain things. But truthfully, I recognized some red flags. I just didn't walk away, which I think can happen for a lot of autistic people. Either because they feel like they don't have options, or it just doesn't register as abuse quickly. So, again, leading to control over various aspects of their life, like finances or social relationships. And again, this is more talking about infantilization in general, not just like autistic infantilization or infantilization of autistic people. But yeah, a lot of women who get into relationships, and I'm sure some guys do, but I just hear it talked about more often. Girls talk about getting into relationships. Girls who are autistic talk about getting into relationships that are toxic and abusive. Guys that are autistic end up saying, like, I can't get into any relationship. Just not making one of those worse or better or whatever. That's just the reason I hear about women talking about being in abusive situations, is that men will go towards them, abusers will go towards them. You know, if you are an autistic person and you're coming across as simple-minded, if you're coming across as less able to put up boundaries, less aware of what boundaries need to be there are going to be people that are abusers that have an attraction either because they want to abuse or because unconsciously they will use toxic, abusive ways of controlling because they're afraid of, because that's what they've learned how to get their relationship needs met. Again, not saying that that's okay, that's just what they end up doing. Let's go to the next one. So the third of 5, we're at number 3. Disempowerment. Infantilization strips people of their power and voice in both private and public spaces. It makes them more vulnerable to other forms of abuse because they might feel less confident or less able to stand up for themselves or seek help. And I don't think I have very much to add to that. I agree. Number 4, isolation. Infantilized individuals are often cut off from age-appropriate peer groups or activities. This can lead to social isolation, which in turn makes it harder for them to build supportive networks, leaving them more exposed to abuse. Right. Again, like this really tells you, in my own mind, it tells you about myself. But I think even culturally, I think we're way more responsive and we notice abuse more when it happens to women, because every time I try and think of an example of abuse, I'm always thinking of it as a man abusing a woman. even though I've been abused by a woman, and I know someone whose brother got murdered by a woman, and was dealing with abuse so it's like, I think, yeah, there's nothing for me to say about that. I'm just kind of, it's frustrating for me that I keep going into that mindset of man abusing woman, adult abusing younger person. The truth is that a younger person can abuse an older person. It really is about, like, for instance, a young autistic person who maybe is more capable in the world. I don't know if I should do that, more capable. A younger person who's more capable, more socially adept, could very easily abuse a autistic person 10, 20 years older than that person, than the autistic. Like, we have these stereotypes in our head, like it's only going to be an adult, or it's only going to be an older person abusing a younger person. It's only going to be a man abusing a woman, or although this one's more true, an adult abusing a child. I don't think a child usually abuses an adult. But, things, it can be more often that it comes out that way, but it's not always. But isolation, for me, isolation's been a huge problem. And, one thing that can be very difficult for kids, if they're on the autism spectrum, it might not be a problem, or it might be a problem. Let's say like a 15-year-old autistic person might actually feel more comfortable around 11-year-olds. But that can lead to really negative things, right? And it can, maybe they want to be around people their own age, but then the people their own age are like, infantilizing them and treating them badly and pushing them away. And isolation is a huge problem. When you get isolated, it's kind of like, I actually read or heard something recently like this, where isolation is kind of like being in debt, and being poor and being in debt. It's like, once you're in it, climbing your way out of it is one of the most difficult things. I think they were relating it to jobs as well. Like, once you've been unemployed for a long time, getting into employment and then getting into a good employment is like devastatingly difficult. If you have other problems, health problems on top of it, then it's very, very difficult. So, let's go to the last. Stigmatization and stereotyping. Infantilization can reinforce harmful stereotypes, especially for disabled people, the elderly, or those with mental health challenges. This can lead to broader societal discrimination, limiting their opportunities for work, social engagement, and basic rights. And of course, now that I'm reading all these and thinking about it more, I really wish I'd said, talk about infantilization, but mostly through the lens of neurodivergence, not just autism, but like ADHD and stuff like that. Because even though these are important topics, I have less to say about the elderly or whatever. So, one thing that I did later is I said, give me a script. And then when I, saw the script, I'm like, well, I don't really have a way of, like, I'm not good at following scripts anyways, but I don't have a way of, like, doing it well and, like, reading and, like, acting like I'm reading to you. But just reading through the script, let me pick out certain things. Like I said, to give examples of the different things. So let's go back to undermining autonomy. So let's say, for example, I'm reading this now. Let's say someone is always ordering food for you, assuming they know what you like or what's best for you. It might seem like they're being considerate, but over time this can chip away at your sense of independence or your ability to assert what you want. And again, like even something like that. So if you're infantilized, that last part, it chips away at your ability to assert what you want, which is a huge part of putting boundaries up. A boundary is basically going like, this is what what is a boundary? A boundary is you asserting how you're expecting others to treat you. And if you're an adult and have the power, you put up the boundary and say, hey, you're not going to talk to me like that. You're not going to treat me like that. That's not acceptable. If you do that again, then we're done. I'm getting away from you. Like if that's a girlfriend, like, hey, you calling me a kid. I'm not a kid. I'm an adult. I've got my own problems and I've got my own challenges, but I'm an adult. So I'm not a kid. Don't treat me like a kid. And if you do that again, then I'm not going to be around you anymore. I'm going to break up with you. We're not going to be friends. I'm going to go off on my own, away from you. And then you have to stick to the boundary and everything. But if you've been infantilized so much and so often, you might not understand that it is acceptable for you to put up a boundary. You might not even be in that mindset where it is something you can do. Okay, let me read. Imagine constantly being told, oh, don't worry about that, you wouldn't understand. Or, which I've heard autistic people bring that exact phrase up. Oh, don't worry about that, you wouldn't understand. Or, let me handle that, it's too much for you. These phrases might seem small, but they send the message that your opinion isn't valued, which can lead to feeling powerless. Eventually, this erodes your confidence and can become a form of psychological abuse. Maybe I should have just started here. So let's go to creating dependency and go to the example. Example of creating dependency. If someone starts managing your finances because they believe you're not capable of handling it, that takes away your control over your own money. It can go from helping to controlling, and this control can be easily exploited. But it makes me think of probably what's happened to Britney Spears. Britney Spears was heavily controlled, probably infantilized, her money being controlled by other people, or her sense of agency being controlled by other people. And the horrible thing is that then I don't remember what it was called. She wasn't institutionalized, but they had deep control. Then she wrestled back control through the courts, but now I randomly saw this recently, that she was burning through her money. And so you might be like, oh, well, see, that proves that she wasn't capable of having control to begin with. But the amount of less obvious abuse that she was dealing with perhaps led to a person, herself, being unable to actually be controlling of her own finances. So the insidious part of, I like that word today, the insidious part of infantilization is that it can actually worm its way into your own head, into your own mind, and gets you to start believing in the idea that you might not even be capable. And so then you end up making bad decisions, or and then that. Okay, well, I'm going to jump back to this. And this control easily can be exploited. Maybe they start deciding how you should spend your money, or worse, they could limit your access to it altogether. Again, Britney Spears. Let's jump to the example of disempowerment. For instance, in a work environment, someone might speak for you in meetings or dismiss your ideas without even considering them because they've already labeled you as someone who can't handle certain tasks. Outside of work, you might find that your input on important decisions, like where to live or what kind of medical treatment you want, is disregarded. This leaves you feeling powerless, which makes it even harder to stand up for yourself. And when you feel like your voice doesn't matter, it becomes easier for others to take advantage of that. Right, and again, I want to go back to the point that if you are seen in an infantilized way, it's almost like abusive people crawl out the woodwork. Like, abusive people, or people that have abusive behaviors, almost are like magnetically attracted to people, whether romantically or just interpersonally. I don't know. They're attracted. They see the easily abused and they go directly to that person. They're like, and part of that is that people that are less naive in an autistic sense, they've been trained less into being infantilized. They will see the red flag and they'll go, whoa, I see what you're doing. You make me feel uncomfortable. I'm getting away. And autistic people can not see that as quickly. And so they end up with that toxic, abusive person in their lives before they know it. So that was disempowerment. Isolation. So this is for isolation. Think about it. If someone constantly treats you like you can't go out with your friends or participate in adult conversations, you start to feel alienated. The isolation prevents you from forming supportive networks and having the kinds of relationships that are crucial for personal growth. It's like being stuck in a bubble, separated from everyone else. Yeah. Let's jump to stigmatization and stereotyping. They did a good one this time. For example, if you're an adult with a disability and someone always speaks to your caregiver instead of to you, they're basically sending this message that you're invisible. Again, my mom, she meant well, and I was not diagnosed autistic. I just was, in my family, they would go, oh, well, you're shy, you have social anxiety, and they would try to help me out, and without meaning to. My mom would always take the lead in certain situations. My mom and sister, at one point, I had gone to college, and we needed to get a lease for an apartment, and instead of having me go do it, I was like overcome with emotions, being like, oh my God, I can't do this. I wasn't having a meltdown, but I was just panicking. They saw that and they went, we'll just do it for you. Doing something like that, in the moment it was good. It was like a relief. Like, thank God I don't have to deal with it. But my mom and sister, it gave me the feeling, I'm sorry if you hear my stomach growling or weird bubbles. That happens when I turn on the camera sometimes. Maybe it's from my tea. So that gave me the feeling of A, I can't do what I need to do. B, and my sister did. I don't remember my sister being mean about it, but I think she might have been, in a not meaning to way. So yeah, here maybe I should read this. In conclusion, so as you can see, infantilization, it isn't just about someone being a little overbearing. It can lead to real harm, affecting autonomy, independence, and self-worth. It's important that we again, this is very ChatGPT. It's important that we recognize and challenge these behaviors. It's important that we recognize and challenge these behaviors. Whether it's happening to us or others, everyone deserves to be treated with respect as a capable and autonomous individual. Thanks for watching, and if this resonates with you, or if you've had similar experience, feel free to share in the comments below. Let's keep the conversation going, and as always, take care of yourselves. I'm gonna stay for a second. So yeah, that's what ChatGPT has to say, and I agree with a lot of it. One of the worst things about making videos like this, I ramble to myself all the time, coming up, just about this or about, I read that comment and then I was like talking to myself and out loud for, a couple hours, and I'm like, I wish I could pick parts of this out. So I wish I could better articulate myself when I'm talking here, but I think I did an okay job. I should have said this at the beginning, but for the person that left the comment, please don't. If I've said anything that feels like an attack or a dismissal of what you're going through, like, I don't want to dismiss what you're going through at all. The grass is always greener. Yeah, you don't want to be. I'd rather be infantilized than outright abused, talked over, and spoken with a harsh and uncaring manner. I don't know. At my age right now, and maybe this is being a guy as well, there's something to be said for someone just being direct with their abuse, because you can actually push back against it. You can say, like, F you. You can attack sometimes before you're attacked, if it's coming from one person. But when it's an infantilization, it's like they don't give you even you get trapped in this situation where you can't call them out sometimes, because they'll be like, wow, what's the problem? I'm helping you, or I'm trying to be nice. And they'll say things like that, which puts you into this bind of not even being able to recognize what's actually happening and not being able to call it out. And again, autistic people can be very good at this, of if they're abusive. What are you talking about? I'm not being mean. I'm not doing anything against you. I'm actually being nice. I'm helping you. But it can be very bad. And that's not even to get into the, I have a lot more examples of things that have happened to me where I recognize that even a stranger would treat me badly because they were seeing me as not capable or whatever. It's very weird. When it happens, it's very, very weird. Especially with a stranger. So that's all that I want to say. Thank you for listening and watching, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.